The SAT and ACT sections test your ability to process complex texts and answer questions in a very compressed period of time. So naturally, this causes students to ask, can I increase my reading speed? First, the bad news, in the short term, your reading speed is largely going to be fixed, often by factors outside of your control. So short-term speed reading classes, tips, techniques, things like that, they're not really going to help you boost your reading words per minute in the very short term. The good news is that you can increase your reading speed, or at least reading efficiency, over the medium and long term. But it's going to be a process. Like all good things, it's going to happen overnight. It's going to require a consistent commitment to that process of improvement. Now, me for an example, not in terms of reading, but running. I'm not a fast runner, but that's not because I haven't found the right tips or strategies, or I haven't found the right speed running program or something. It's because I haven't engaged in the practices, the habits, the discipline that it takes to improve my running ability over a period of time. And it's the same thing with reading. If the best way to get better at running or faster at running is to run, then really ultimately the best way to get faster, better at reading is to read. One reason why this is the case is that much of your reading speed is actually defined by your familiarity with what you're reading, with the material, your background knowledge. Now, the SAT and ACT, they're not content tests, right? So you don't need to know the science facts or history facts that they're testing. But the more familiar you are with the material, with what topics are going over, you're going to understand that passage much more quickly, much more efficiently. So the more you read, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the more you'll be able to read, the better you'll be able to read, which means you'll learn even more, and so on. It's a virtuous circle. You improve yourself as you go along, almost in an exponential way. You also build your vocabulary, your word sense, your knowledge of idioms and standard usage of language across different contexts. And that's going to help you read even more complex texts, which will further build your knowledge of vocabulary and other things that are going to help you read more texts and so on. And so the snowball rolls down the hill. And so your facility with language grows stronger and stronger. And the more you read, the more you'll understand and recognize typical structures or patterns of passages. You'll see sort of familiar moves and arguments and ways of organizing texts and presenting ideas that authors like to use and reuse. You'll learn to anticipate where the author is taking the argument, and then crucially be surprised when it doesn't play out like you expected. And that's another learning moment to say, oh, I thought this was going to happen, but actually the author did this. Interesting. And that's where you start to learn more and further grow your skills. So in short, there are no courses, there's no techniques, there's no strategies that are going to, instantly or even in a short period of time, increase your reading speed. Instead, what you have to do is read a variety of texts frequently. Ultimately, this comes down to an example of this principle called the Matthew effect, which I'm just going to boil down for this context in this way. Better readers become better readers, right? It's this, as we said before, virtuous circle. You become a better reader, that makes you read more and read better, which helps you read more and read better, and so on. So if you don't yet have a reading routine, or you just want some tips on how to build a consistent practice, check out in the description below. There's a link to our SAT and ACT reading list. In that list, we talk about what you can read, how much to read, how often to read, all ideas about how to build up that consistent habit. So go ahead and take a look at that. If you haven't already, start that reading habit, start that reading practice right away. It will pay off not just on these tests, but really for the rest of your life. Wherever you go, whatever your job, profession, goal is going to be, this skill will be crucial.